Hello everybody, welcome to Austin Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 100k subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. Also drop a like on this video, it only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. Also real quick, because I completely forgot to mention it, episode 12 of my Mavs My NBA, which is going over the off season that I hyped up from the very beginning of episode 1 of the series. That is out now, so if you've been keeping up with that series, go check it out. And if you have not been watching that series, that is a good series to watch, even if you don't enjoy 2K stuff, because it's more like the logistics of how a basketball team is created rather than actual 2K stuff. So go check that out if you haven't. But these two, I'm covering basically 1.25, I guess, games, because I watched Suns versus Blazers, but like barely, because I got in about halfway through the first quarter and the game was relatively close at that point. Yeah, to end the first quarter, Phoenix was only down 6, but preceding that, I really watched mostly the second and third quarters because Portland really started to get ahead of it, and they ended up winning the game by 29 points overall because the Blazers were already up 6, and then they won the second quarter by 14 points. And that run, a lot of it came from CJ McCollum. There was a run in the third quarter by Anthony Simons, who finished the game with 18 points on 7 for 14 shooting and 4 for 8 from 3. There was a run specifically in the third quarter where he had like 7 consecutive points. Nazir Little was really good in making hustle plays, and he hit a buzzer-beating tip layup after missing his drive, and then he like screamed at the crowd, as you do. But what was interesting about this game was there wasn't a whole lot of Damian Lillard. 19 points, and he only played 24 minutes. I don't believe he got hurt or anything like that. It's just the lead became so evident from the second quarter, and he didn't really have to do that much. Like 19 points is not a lot for Damian Lillard. He did get a lot of assists, but like it really wasn't necessary because Norman Powell was hitting his shots. CJ McCollum was doing a lot offensively, hitting a lot of three-pointers. Yusuf Nurkic was fine. Larry Nance Jr. he didn't fill up the box score or anything like that, but he hit his three-pointers, which was cool. That's a thing with him that, you know, kind of he can do, but not, you know, strictly. But yeah, that was pretty much it. There was not much to say about this one on Portland's side of things in terms of why it went so poorly for Phoenix. First of all, their defense wasn't all that amazing, but Chris Paul, like, didn't shoot the ball at all, which I thought was weird. He shot the ball 5 times. Same goes for DeAndre Ayton, who shot the ball 6 times. Like, why the shot distribution with this team did not make sense. Like, Abdul Nader finishes with more shots than Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. What's the deal with that? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Through the whole game, like, Chris Paul finished with 11 assists, and he did that in 25 minutes, but it was like he wasn't aggressively looking for his shot whatsoever. He hit like a fadeaway mid-range shot, and then he got a layup in like the either late third quarter or early fourth quarter, but that's like all he did scoring wise. It's like, why? That I understand the playmaking is like the main thing with Chris Paul, but the scoring is a big thing as well, and he just did not really do that in this game. So that's all I really have to say about this game. Again, I was also watching the Clippers-Memphis game, which was significantly better than this game, so this kind of fell into the background. So that's how it went. Also, I missed like the first half of the first quarter. Anyways, moving on to the Grizzlies-Clippers game, which, as mentioned, was a whole lot better. Ended up being the Grizzlies winning by 6 points here. This game fell into a cycle that really annoys me sometimes. In this one, it was more tolerable because it wasn't to some extreme or anything. But it always annoys me when I see a game where it's like, this team makes like a 5-point run. Like in this game with the Clippers, specifically more so in the second half, because they had some leads, and I actually believe the Clippers... I'm not going to do the math on it right now. I believe they led, or it was close enough in the first half, but in the third quarter, the Grizzlies won the quarter by 11 points. But it was a constant run of like 5 points for the Clippers being down 10, and then a 5-point run by the Grizzlies, and it's 10 points again. It's like, well, the Grizzlies they pushed off the comeback, and then the Clippers do the same thing again. And then the Grizzlies do the same thing again. And then the Clippers, and it's like a constant cycle. It's always a pet peeve of mine when that happens over and over again, because it feels like there's progress being made by the other side, and it's like, nah, never mind. And then, oh, wait, progress, never mind. That happened a lot in this game. But in the fourth quarter, I guess you could argue it kind of happened again, but because it was closer in the game, and I think it was the closest that the Clippers did end up getting, it felt more significant. But in the fourth quarter of this game, the Clippers cut it down to, I think they had it at the lowest, was a 2 or 3 point game. But they fought back, and some big shots made. Paul George was hitting a ton of big shots. Eric Bledsoe got fouled a couple of times and hit some free throws, although I think he... Sorry for the burps. I see complaints about those sometimes. I fucking ate pizza right before this, which is brilliant decision on my part. Yeah, Eric Bledsoe actually shot terribly. What am I talking about? I think he went to the line a couple of times, though. But really, this game, for the majority of the game, Reggie Jackson was doing well offensively, and then come like the second half of the game, really, he started putting up shots that just weren't going in. I know it at the half, he had like 11 or 12, something in that ballpark on good efficiency, and then he finished shooting 41% from the field. Marcus Morris continues to struggle. He missed a huge three-pointer. He really missed 2 big three-pointers in that fourth quarter, and as someone who shot 48% from 3 last year, the percentages that he ended up shooting, that he shot in these first 2 games, is 1 for 6 in this one. I know I watched the Warriors game as well. He did not shoot well in that one either. I pointed out, like, when I was doing my video on how good the Clippers will be this year over on my main channel, quick plug, I suppose, I was like, Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris have to be good scoring the ball in order for this Clippers team to be really good, or even like competitive, really. Like, if one of these 2 guys is dropping the ball, they're probably not going to win versus most teams. And a Grizzlies team that, while I think is good, is not an outstanding team. They're probably a lower tier playoff team, or in the play-in conversation possibly. For that team to beat you in the fashion that they did when Paul George has 41 points, I think that really proves my point. That's like, if Reggie has a good-ish game and Marcus has a bad game, you're not getting enough offensively. They had some moments from Luke Kennard. He had 10 points. He hit some big three-pointers. Isaiah Hartenstein, surprisingly, in 16 minutes, had a couple of good pick and rolls, a couple that were assisted by Eric Bledsoe, who, while Eric Bledsoe did shoot terribly because he's Eric Bledsoe, he did have some nice assists and some good defensive plays, so I won't shit on him too much. Another interesting tidbit is that the Clippers went to a small ball lineup for a majority of this game with Marcus Morris at center. Of course, that lineup really showed itself in the Mavs series in the playoffs last year and worked well versus the Utah Jazz as well. It's interesting to see because I feel like that could be a step in the NBA's evolution where, like, once again, it's just more evidence of, like, do we really need centers, though? Of course, outliers like Jokic and Embiid and stuff like that, it's hard to be like, oh, we're just going to outright throw away centers. But I think for the most part, the center position is dying. But that's a video for another day. And I don't mean the talent is dying. I just mean, like, people just don't really... It's very clear that, like, just if you're just an okay center, your value is not what it used to be, essentially. And that's part of the argument that people have made towards not giving DeAndre in a max, but I'm getting into a whole bunch of different tangents at this point. Ja Morant in this game, very good. A couple of clutch drives in this one. Few more three-point attempts than I would like, but overall he was efficient, so I can't complain too much. Got to the free throw line a good bit, which is something that's always nice to see with him. But what I appreciated from the Memphis Grizzlies in this game in particular, and this is something that has existed before, but it really was evident in this one, was there was some serious, like, great shot distribution. Even though it wasn't an even, like, everybody got the same amount of attempts, but if you look at the points, Ja Morant with 28, D'Anthony Melton with 22, Jaren Jackson Jr. with 21, Desmond Bane with 19, Steven Adams with 17. Now, they did not get a whole lot from their bench unit. They only got 13 points off of the bench, but from the starters, like, they were fantastic. A lot of this was distributed from Ja Morant. Steven Adams had a couple of nice passes. He finished with 5 assists in this game. But, like, Steven Adams, a couple of pick and rolls and stuff like that, dump off passes in the paint. I think he hit a hook shot or two, got to the free throw line, stuff like that. Typical how you'd expect him to score. Desmond Bane hit some big shots, including a mid-range shot that was kind of the nail in the coffin for the Clippers because they played a great defensive possession and then Desmond got trapped in the corner on a mid-range shot and then he was like at an awkward angle and he just put it up and it was fucking bottoms. And then the next possession, Jaren Jackson hit a 3 and that was the definite nail in the coffin. But Desmond Bane great game from him. Jaren Jackson, great game from him. And it's nice to see him out there playing well, 3 for 5 from outside. DeAnthony Melton, one of the most underrated players in the league. And actually looking at it, this is like the perfect starting lineup for the Grizzlies. I don't know if this is what the lineup they had for the other game they played. Yeah, they've at least played one game by now. But this lineup is great because DeAnthony Melton is a really good three-point shooter and a good defender. Desmond Bane, same thing. Jaren Jackson, same thing. You really got 3 good shooters out there along with John Morant and Steven Adams. And that's pretty I'm pretty happy with that. Because spacing has been a problem with the Grizzlies. In terms of their bench depth, they're really not bringing all that much, but it's definitely nice to see. So that's a good. I didn't realize I had not considered how good Memphis' starting lineup is. Also, I should mention for Steven Adams, I feel like me included a little bit, got so caught up in the Jonas Valanciunas is actually really good thing where we were saying it as though Steven Adams wasn't also good, because Steven Adams is like 75% as good as Jonas Valanciunas, which is a downgrade, but like it wasn't such a significant downgrade that people should have been expecting the Grizzlies to be bad this year or anything. I definitely think bare minimum they're making a play-in spot. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this game as well as Blazers Suns, but there was not much to say about that one. It's just a big fucking blowout. I think I'm going to title this video something like Paul George is great, but the Clippers aren't. These first 2 games, the all-around team has not been very substantial. Also, I forgot to mention this, Terrence Mann. I said in the Clippers video as well that Terrence Mann could have a breakout year potentially this year. Warriors game, he didn't really do much. In this one, he went 1 for 8. So, take not aging so well so far, even though he was primarily in the lineup that was small ball with no Zubats. But anyways, with that title, I just want to say, even though, you know, it is true for these 2 games, it is 2 games, and I wouldn't read into it too much. It's just a good title. But yeah, that is it. Go check out that My NBA series if you don't already. Also, go check out my most recent main channel video talking about Russell Westbrook and his start with the Lakers this season. But yeah, that is it. Goodbye.